A New York Times article written by Dana G. Smith just outlined a research study about Super Agers. They define Super Agers as individuals who are 80 and up, but have the memory ability of a person 20 to 30 years younger. The research has been done for over a decade by different researchers in different places, and what it showed was that the Super Agers' brains looked more like 50 or 60-year-olds' brains than their 80-year-old peers. When followed over several years, the Super Agers' brains atrophied slower than average. So I read this article, searching myself for something that would teach me the hack to becoming a Super Ager. I have dealt with many physical medical issues, right? But what I fear the most is my brain leaving me. I fear being physically here, but my anxiety is eating me alive in some cognitive loop I can't get out of. I'm not sure if you relate, but I'm always looking into ways to keep my brain sharp. And the past few years, I've been really working to build myself out step by step out of this fight or flight state I was in for so much of my life and allow myself to get more cozy with better mental health. Also, I actually have several what I would consider Super Agers in my life. Many family members of my family, especially the women, have lived really long, healthy lives. I have a great grandma who lived to be 103, and I have a grandma in her mid-90s right now who is honestly sharper and wiser and more dynamic than so many people who are characteristically in their prime or whatever. Another grandma of mine passed away in her 90s, and she was even incredibly young presenting until the last few years of her life. So I feel like I'm blessed because I'm surrounded by these folks. But as I scanned that article for the way to become a Super Ager, what they shared actually surprised me and also didn't surprise me at the same time. I'll explain what I mean. I'm going to share how it was written in the article. They said, in an ideal world, you'd find out that all Super Agers ate 6 tomatoes every day, and that was the key. But overall, there were a lot of things not particularly striking about them. We see some surprising omissions, things that you would expect to be associated with Super Agers that weren't really there. For example, there were no differences between the groups in terms of their diets, in terms of the amount of sleep they got, their professional backgrounds, or their alcohol and tobacco use. The behaviors of some of the Super Agers were similarly a surprise. Some exercised regularly, but some never had. Some stuck to a Mediterranean diet, others subsisted off of TV dinners, and a few of them even smoked cigarettes. However, there was one consistency among the entire group, and that was that they tended to have strong social relationships. Well, I've heard this before. I've actually heard this again and again. I told you I think about this a lot, right? So I've heard this about social connections and their role in midlife in my last episode with Chip Conley and in his books. I've also heard this theory in multiple TED Talks. It's one of the main research points done on centenarians, and now I'm reading it here in this decade-long medical research published in the New York Times. And by the way, I will attach the research in the show notes. It made me start thinking about all the social opportunities that I face every day. There's ones with my family, my friends, networking experiences, right? And honestly, a lot of success in my business I would attribute to social opportunities. The opportunity to be around other people in my business as an entrepreneur has been literally some of the best choices I've ever made. The community of local businesses in my hometown that came together to form a nonprofit, that truly helped me build my record store. It helped me grow the record store that I owned dramatically. I joined my first mastermind, which is essentially a business group, in 2018, and some of the people I met in that mastermind are still in my very, very close circles today. The second mastermind I joined actually introduced me to people that I consider my best friends. But what's more than just being my friend, they actually pushed me. Being around the right people made me a better person. Being around good people who are inspired by their lives, who are in love with their work, who are always looking to better themselves, but also to look out for others, it has a way of reminding you how unique you are and that you've always been impactful, even as the world has sunk its claws into you. It turns out that it is not only making me better, but it potentially could even make me live longer. One time someone close to me said about a business club or business group I was in, Those people in those groups only are your friends because you pay to be part of that business group. You have to be friends with them. And I quietly reminded myself that he was wrong, but time proved it to me over and over and over again, just how wrong he was and just how special those folks were in my life. They were honest with me. They encouraged me. They shared some of the same experiences that I had, but they also brought so many new experiences to the table too. And I know I've said this before on the podcast, but I definitely learn better from people when I get to watch how they do it versus just receiving advice. I saw them creating businesses that served purposes. I saw them standing up for what they believed in, speaking out about important issues. That gave me confidence to believe in myself too, and to reassure what I knew about myself all along. Standing up for what I believe in actually wasn't a problem at all. Being myself wasn't a problem at all. Then there are groups that I host today myself, right? My own mastermind groups, my own business groups. And this is why I believe in them so much. I feel blessed and honestly honored that they trust me to bring them together in this type of roundtable setting, like a mastermind or like the retreats that I co-host, because I know that some of these folks will go on to be close, trusted relationships with the people they are sharing these moments with. I don't take it lightly when putting together these groups. I don't take it lightly at all. And I was thinking about just how incredibly meaningful social opportunities and social circles are for me in my business and my well-being, because I've been so blessed in this lifetime with people in my personal life who will show up. They're gentle when I need gentleness. They push me when I need to be pushed. They tell the truth about how they're feeling, even when how they are feeling is less than perfect. They've been such a soft place to land, especially the last few years. And I feel like I won, some kind of friendship and family jackpot. I hope that you can find some circles like this in your life too. And if you don't have them right now, just keep pushing for them. Keep meeting people, keep networking with people. I can't go without saying that having a partner who loves you is a philosophical match for you, roots for you, cherishes your relationship the way you do. That obviously doesn't hurt either. And I have that, and I'm very lucky. I sound like I'm bragging, right? But, well, maybe I am a little bit. But I'm just so grateful. And I want to give something to take away, because I've been thinking about what makes some relationships so sustainable, and then what makes some relationships honestly pretty temporary. There are a few keys, I think, to keeping strong relationships that have not only helped me stay present, but also helped me develop as a person. And these are things that I think contribute to my relationships. So one is accepting that everyone is at a different stage of their life and journey. Some people might not stay for the whole ride of your friendship, and maybe not a million years. Some people are just a season. Some people will want to stay wherever they're at and wherever they're most comfortable. You get to decide whose opinion you take as truth and who you ask for advice, so choose wisely. You also get to choose who you depend on. If they aren't on the same path as you, it doesn't mean that you can't be close to them, but maybe you should have some discernment on just where their view of the world is in comparison to your own, and don't expect the same from them as you give. 2, I think I can attribute some of the best relationships in my life to being understanding of someone. The relationships that hold the highest value in my life are the ones who ask questions and who allow me to ask deeper questions too. We answer with truth. We also keep ourselves accountable. We seek to understand each other and ourselves. This is the same for me in business and in personal relationships. Ask follow-up questions. Be willing to have the conversations you don't understand. Be willing to even be wrong sometimes. 3 is, for me, being honest and keeping my word. I've mentioned this in several podcast episodes before, but honesty is one of my top values in business and life. No one needs to bluff their way to the top, No one needs to pretend that they're someone they're not just to get business. And keeping your word, showing up when you say you will, being someone who says, I got you, or how are you really, when they need it most, will take you farther than putting the words 7 figures in your Instagram bio. Little white lies are still lies, and that might be how you grew up, but you can change that now, and you'll watch your valuable relationships grow. Number 4 is surrounding yourself more often with people you want to be more like. By nature, you're going to end up making choices that are similar to how they will make choices. You'll start kind of adapting and taking on some bits and pieces from their personality, because naturally that is how it works. So surround yourself more often with the people you want to be more like. And 5, I've learned in my life that the way to having the most valuable relationships is to do the work myself. For me, that's in therapy, journaling, meditation. It's not for my relationships. It's not for anyone else. It's only for me. There are things I've learned about being in friendships, social circles, networks, family dynamics throughout my life. And I learned those through the lens of how I grew up and how I experienced relationships in the past. And we each come to the table with different ways that we've experienced relationships. So doing the work myself in therapy and journaling and meditation and understanding how those things put a lens over how I view relationships or how I view socializing has been a game changer for me. Figuring that out for myself has helped me not only have high value relationships, but also love myself a lot more. And that makes everything better. The other day, I got the chance to go to Sequoia National Park with my partner, and we were on this van life trip across the country. It was amazing. We actually went to 3 national parks in 2 days. It was a little crazy, but it was so beautiful. And it reminded me of something that my friend Molly Gershom told me at the last retreat we hosted. She said, the roots of sequoias are actually relatively shallow. They only go down about 6 to 12 feet. But they intertwine with other trees to form this dense network that shares nutrients and support, and that is how they stay so strong and they don't fall over. They need a dense network, just like us. A dense, strong network with plenty of nutrients. I did a poll the other day on Instagram, and I asked people to share if they were an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a friend, a creative. 25% of those of you who voted on that poll, and there were quite a few of you, and thank you for that, by the way. That was very helpful. Quite a few of you put friend or wrote to me and said, can I be a friend and click another button? Because I want to understand that stuff too. And I'm like, yeah, of course. We're totally friends. This isn't like a life or death poll here, but yes. And that made me feel so happy, that so many of the people that I love and cherish and care about also think the same way about me. They also consider me a friend. So that made me really smile, and I feel strongly about my network. So if we are in any way connected, even just you listening to this podcast, please know you really, really matter to me. And by the way, if you're listening to this, let's be real friends. Come find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. Let's connect and be part of our own little nutrient-dense network together. Our social connections are more important than we think. Friend, thank you for listening to the show today. If you liked it, would you mind sharing it on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or writing me a review? Those reviews actually really, really help me show up as a positive podcast to listen to for a lot of people. It actually helps me out, but it also means a lot. And every time I know that someone listened actively to my podcast, it totally fills me up inside. I also wanted to share just a few things going on. The launch of the mastermind just behind the scenes for small business owners and entrepreneurs that wanted to grow their personal brands, it went really well. I ended up with 2 mastermind groups. It has been so much fun. We are having a great time. But I still have quite a bit of interest in this mastermind group. I have a couple people who reached out to me after the deadline, quite a few people who I didn't think were a perfect match for that group, but would be perfect in another group. And I'm considering starting another one in July. So if it interests you, you can click on the link in the show notes here or go search through my Instagram, the link in my Instagram, and you can pick up the link to go fill out the interest form inside there. The third thing is I hosted a social media class in February, and it was super fun. You can pick up the replay for $25 at the link in the show notes as well. If you are interested in it and you want more, you want a social media class that's kind of all-encompassing and down-to-earth, please check that out. Lastly, I am off to London to speak at Atomicon next month. That is Andrew and Pete's conference. It's in Newcastle upon Tyne. It's the UK's best marketing conference, and it'll be in mid-June. I'd love for you to join me there. I'm giving a VIP speaker workshop the day before the conference. Thank you so much for listening today to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. Please let me know which was your favorite part. I want to talk about this episode with you. I want to know if you are also interested in having a better quality of life with me as well.